the Homestead Studios in Santa Clarita, California, it's just the Tip-Sters with Melissa Morgan.
You don't need to see my credentials.
Remember, if you've got a tip for Melissa, barely noticeable specks of blood on the wall of your boss's office, trampled ivy in the garden, how to get a job writing Geico commercials, anything, tell us about it by calling the Tipster hotline at 832-TIPSTER. That's 832-847-7837, or send an email to jttipsters@gmail.com. You just might hear your tip on the podcast. And now here's your host, prying around corners where she's not welcome, but still polite enough to call ahead, Melissa Morgan.
More cowbell. Well, that was the worst cowbell I've ever done.
No, it's not. Oh, no, you've done worse.
Well,
I just never tell you.
Thanks there, life coach.
Actually, you haven't done a bad more cowbell.
Shit.
You haven't done a bad one since the first season. So.
Oh, wow. Okay, thanks.
They've all been very good, actually.
Except for just this one.
No, this was very good. I like this one.
Are Geico commercials the ones with Dr. Rick?
Dr. Rick. No, that's Progressive.
Okay. So I saw on Facebook someone saying that they don't like Dr. Rick. They found him condescending. And Dr. Rick is my and I don't think this person was old.
Well, now see that's
what are you laughing
at?
I'm
saying that's hilarious.
Yes, it is, because Dr. Rick is supposed to be kind of condescending, but I think they felt he was ageist, which is really funny. It's like he's trying to help you not turn into your parents.
Right. I mean, those commercials make fun of the people that are complaining about those commercials.
Oh
my God.
I didn't see it. My head just folded in on itself.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I think Dr. Rick is hilarious, and it isn't, I mean, it's funny. They're not brilliant commercials.
Well, no,
but what makes them so great is the actor playing Dr. Rick, who started teaching these very small workshops where he would go into people's homes and remove all the pillows off their, beds because
right.
But now his workshops are
they're more advanced.
Well, it's like Tom Cruise in, what was that movie, Magnolia?
Right.
Where he would do these
right.
That Paul Thomas Anderson movie where he would do these like workshops in like hotel ballrooms or something. So now Dr. Rick is doing workshops in hotel ballrooms, and it's the actor who makes the commercials amazing. And here we are discussing something where most people probably don't even watch commercials, but producer Mark and I are weirdos. Like since I was a youngster, maybe it was Bewitched, I always wanted to work in the ad business. I wanted to work with Darren Stevens and Larry Tate and come up with new, ad campaigns. I'm the asshole who would, back when you could, like DVD-R things or videotape them, I would tape the Clio Awards because I wanted to see the commercials from all over the globe, actually, that received awards for their, humor or whatever. I love commercials. I love the short form of pretty much anything, which is ironic because, people tell me I talk too much in the intro, but I do like short form things. And Dr. Rick,
great writing, succinct,
I think that's it. It's the brevity, sometimes brevity, like the most recent review, She Cool. Yeah, sometimes there's poetry in the brevity.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And by the way, I just looked him up. The guy's name is Bill Glass. That's the actor's name. He is like one of my favorite human beings because they have a series of Dr. Rick commercials. And, producer Mark and I were just discussing a couple of days ago, the gift that Bill Glass has as Dr. Rick is that he is exasperated, but never too much. He walks a perfect line. Yep. Like rubbing the back of his neck, like when someone raises their hand in the ballroom workshop and says, "Was I hashtagging?" Right. And Dr. Rick is like, "Oh, you can see him struggling. Okay, I can't be rude." Yeah. He rubs the back of his neck and he's like, "Oh God, oh boy." I mean, I love Dr. Rick, and I'm not sure what you are talking about as far as an employer with blood on their office walls. Oh, if you're sitting in your boss's office, you see little specks of blood on the
on the wall, like the ceiling that you saw in our kitchen.
And Emma is missing from accounting.
There's that too. Yes.
Oh,
right.
it wasn't blood on the. I should correct that. Yeah, please, tipsters, don't call the police. We like to play a game in our house called enchilada sauce or blood spatter, and there was some on the ceiling in the fucking kitchen, and I'm like, what the fuck is this shit? It's reddish brown and it's on the ceiling.
It looked like little specks of blood.
It did. It looked like Mark had killed people. So what the tipster should know is that producer Mark is one of the sloppiest chefs in the universe. He's a very wonderful cook, and he, doesn't have a huge repertoire, but the things he makes, and he does a beautiful job.
My enchiladas kill, baby.
His enchiladas kill, literally. No one's died.
No one's died at all.
But he swings a spatula around as if it's, I don't know, made of air, and slings enchilada sauce on the ceiling. And it looked a lot like blood spatter. I'm just saying. So, yeah. Anyway, I think if there's blood spatter on your boss's wall, or what you feel is blood spatter, you should potentially contact a headhunter and get the fuck out of there and get another job. I'm just guessing.
Right. I mean, but you still want to leave a tip on the tipster hotline before you leave.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Thank you. That's a very good point that you made. So what I would like to do now, and it's going to focus a lot on the tipsters this episode. I want to thank tipster Jessica for being our newest YouTube subscriber, and our beloved tipster Beth for being our newest patron on Patreon. Beth is a friend of the podcast and has been. She has sent information on cases, and she has been so supportive. And now she's our newest patron. And it's just the most kind thing. I'm going to stop saying I wish it were not all our friends who do this, because I can't stop you. But I can tell you that I'm so grateful. I haven't taught a yoga class in about 14 months, and you're my only income. I'm going to start babysitting or cutting grass or something. But the patrons you just don't even know what it means. We're really grateful, and thank you for that. And this is another example of what you can do as a listener, as a tipster. We got a beautiful email 2.5, almost 3 months ago now, from tipster Stacy. And it's one of those emails that, makes your heart sing. And before I forget, if you have one of those emails that you want to make my heart sing, or to just recommend a case that you would like to see covered, or anything, just to say, hi, I hate your guts. I mean, I'm probably going to delete that one, but you can send whatever you want to jttipsters@gmail.com. You can call us. If email isn't your thing, call us at 832-TIPSTER. That's 832-847-7837. That's the tipster hotline. You can contact us on any of our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm not really a huge fan of the TikTok-y. I'm not even sure you can contact people that way. But I will tell you, we do have a YouTube channel, and that's going to come into play in this story. I'm going to explain that. And I'm ruminating in my head trying to do something on the YouTube channel other than our logo and the audio. We're grateful that tipster Jessica is our newest YouTube subscriber. We have a couple of hundred subscribers. YouTube mystifies me. I mean, I just sit and, watch makeup videos, makeup tutorials, or Dollar Tree hauls. I'm like a weirdo.
Oh, there is something called Dollar Tree hauls?
Oh, baby doll.
Because I hear Dollar Tree a lot on the videos that I'm falling asleep to while you're watching them.
As I'm on my iPad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear Dollar Tree a lot.
If I'm not watching how to put makeup on better, because I need help like a lot of people. I'm watching things to get at Dollar Tree that, like make your home more streamlined, or storage, or whatever. Yeah. So I don't get you YouTube listeners, but God bless you for being there. And we're thinking of trying to do something
more in the video realm. I don't particularly like seeing myself, but I don't have to look at it. You would have to look at it. But again, we're going to get back to YouTube in a moment. We got this email from Tipster Stacy, and it's one of those things that you can only hope that anything you say lands somewhere, somehow, into the ear holes of a special human being like Stacy, and who takes what you say. This is a case of Tipster Stacy saying something that just means the world to me. And her email said, something stood out to me as I was listening to several episodes. If true crime is really that interesting to you as a listener, get involved. I have taken that to heart, but I haven't known exactly what I could do. With this already on my mind, and then listening to the episode with David Middleman from Othram Inc., Othram Labs in Texas, he also mentioned getting involved. And I really felt strongly I needed to do something, but I didn't know what. Then I remembered a double murder that happened several years ago, about 30 minutes from my home. There aren't very many murders around here, around where I live, but that isn't the only reason it stood out. One of the victims, Cyle VanKomen, was from my hometown, and while I didn't know him personally, we had some mutual friends on Facebook, and I also had mutual friends with his mother, Renee Finch. I remember one of those friends posting about Cyle after the murders happened, and again a year later when they still hadn't been solved. I thought that this had been taken care of, but I had this nagging feeling I needed to get involved after listening to your show. I don't think it's an accident that I remembered about this double murder, and I had to do some searching, and once I remembered what I needed to look up, I discovered that now 4 years later it remains unsolved. Now here's what Tipster Stacy did that was kind of amazing. I've Googled and tried to find all that I can about the case, but it doesn't seem like much has happened as far as attention with the media in the last couple of years. I'm going to link below everything I found, and I'll be damned if this girl didn't link so many things. I found a few other things looking, but she really wrote this episode for me. I mean, she did the hard work. She found, a lot of the local information. And one of the things about a podcast is that we stay in the ethers. People are constantly, we're on the cloud. People are constantly discovering podcasts, whether they hang with them and like them, that's, another thing. But we get emails, messages constantly. Hey, I just found you. We've been here 3.5 years, almost 3.5 years. But, people maybe Google a specific person's name, and instead of a local story that may or may not pop up, a lot of times when you Google a victim's name that we have covered the case, we're the first thing that pops up. And I don't know how to be a whiz at advertising, and I don't pay for Google ad placement, or I don't even know how any of that works. But I have done that a couple of times and been shocked when I would Google a victim's name after we've done an episode, and I'm like, well, there we are. So that's one of the things I love about podcasts. They're not like a local news story that if you don't know what you're looking for on ABC4 in South Ogden, Utah, which, by the way, does a wonderful job of covering this case, and they cover it every anniversary. And the thing is, there shouldn't be any more anniversaries for this case. There just really shouldn't be any more anniversaries. This case is so infinitely solvable, and you're going to understand my anger at this when I get done. But Tipster Stacy said, I can't go out on searches, and I know you get a lot of cases submitted to you. I'm doing this because I can't do other things, but I can follow your advice and get involved by bringing awareness to you about this one. And she did. She did get involved. She did a wonderful thing and sent me this information almost 3 months ago. And I will be honest, this is the anger part that's going to come out here. I contacted the detective immediately, and he is the same detective who's been on the case the entire time. And he was responsive and friendly and open and seeking help. This is the part that bothers me. You know, I don't know what's worse. The detectives or the law enforcement agencies that will not even acknowledge my phone calls, my emails, or the ones that respond, say they need help, they are interested in doing the podcast, and then nothing. So
they just evaporate.
Yep,
That's the...
They ghost me.
Yeah.
This is the detective that I sent an email to last week and said, should I just go pound sand? This is the detective. And I got angry and decided, you know what? It's been 7 days since I sent that email. Nothing. And I'm going to say I have about 10 emails to this detective and probably 4 voicemails. And we had 2 conversations on the phone. There was, well, let me talk to my superiors. There was, I'm going on vacation. Yeah, that's for like a week. This has been almost 3 months. You know, and then nothing. Now, I could take it personally and say he listened to the podcast and decided he didn't want to do it because of he didn't like the format. He didn't like me. I don't care.
If that's the case, he calls you back and say, I don't think this is the podcast.
Yeah, something. That's why I said, should I just go pound sand? I don't care if you don't like me or my delivery or what I do. I don't give a shit. If you are in law enforcement and you are begging the public for tips, for help, for something, and somebody, you know, we're not some huge, you know, podcast, but we're going to get more listeners than your small local station, than your small local newspaper. We're going to get more people who listen, and you don't...
From a much broader base, too.
Right. In this, you know, one of the victims was 24. You know, podcasts have an audience, have a demographic, and obviously depending on the, you know, type of podcast, the subject matter, age, you know, plays in there. True crime is largely a younger audience. We have audience members from all over and from all ages, and we're in like 42 countries. Granted, someone, you know, from South Africa may not be able to help with a case in South Ogden, Utah, but you really don't know. People get transferred, people move, you know, it's a mobile world in more than one way. And when you're begging for help and information, consider going on a podcast and making a broader audience for what you're trying to do, because this case makes me so angry. It's got so much in common with the Delphi, Indiana case. This is one of the only cases where one of the victims had security cameras mounted on his home and went to visit his next door neighbor, his friend. They both end up murdered, and his security camera caught 3 suspects casing the house, and nothing, crickets. I don't understand. I mean, it isn't.
Well, just based on what you said, I already don't understand.
Well, okay. So if you're unfamiliar with the Delphi case, which I doubt if you listen to true crime, you probably are very familiar with the Delphi case. But if you aren't, you know, February 13th of, I think it was 2017, 2 young girls went for a walk in a park. And one of the young girls was so mindful that she pulls out her iPhone and turns the video function on. And they have video and audio of the monster who approached the girls and then later murdered them. And I will be honest, to the first 2 years of that case, I didn't put a whole lot of attention on it because I thought, well, this has to be solved, right? I mean, I'm sure this is solved by now. And then the more I would look and find out about it, nope, still not solved. Still not solved. And this is similar. You know, Kevin Nelson, when he went to visit his next door neighbor, Cyle VanKomen, didn't have a phone that he pulled out to videotape his murderers, but he did the next best thing. He had his home security cameras mounted all over his house. Looks like 2 different vantage points from what I can tell. Granted, what we have is it's nighttime, it's winter, it's dark. The perpetrators are wearing odd clothing. So before I go too far, I just want to say that, you know, this case is one that I believe is infinitely solvable. I think Tipster Stacy was probably surprised when she looked it up and found that here 4 years later, it hasn't been solved. There has to be more than one person who has an idea of who could have done this. It's, you know, the strangest situation. I honestly have never heard of anything like this. It really is right up there with the Delphi case as far as the use of the video. It's just... All right, so let's get into it. So, December 9th of 2016, Cyle VanKomen lives at 3636 Ogden Avenue in South Ogden, Utah. And he is a young man. He lives with a few roommates. One is his brother, Brock. And it's not a gang house. It's not a house that causes trouble. It's, you know, not far away from, a college. So there, you know, a lot of young people. But, you know, the other victim is 61. Kyle's 24. And his next door neighbor, Kevin, was 61. And they were friends, which gives you a little idea about Cyle. Cyle seems like the kind of guy that welcomed everyone into his world. If you were a good person, you were his friend from 8 to 80. So I'm going to have to get into the icky part. December of 2016, December 9th, the Friday night, Cyle is home on Ogden Avenue. His brother Brock and another roommate leave for 10 minutes because they're hungry and they go to the store and buy some Hot Pockets. Now, I'm going to call that pothead food, but that doesn't mean they were potheads.
It probably does, but who cares?
Well, that's actually what the chief of police of Weber County says. Is he's like, look, the house was known to be a place, you know, where you could go to drink beer if you're underage and smoke pot. I don't care about that. What I'm investigating is a double homicide. So Kyle's 24. You know, he has young roommates. One roommate's 20, a survivor, actually. But his younger brother, Brock, and another roommate leave to go get some food. They come back 10 minutes later. And Brock calls his father and says, Kyle's been shot. And J.J. Komen says, well, how do you know that? And Brock says, because he's lying in my arms. I can't imagine getting a phone call from one son about your other son.
Oh, my God. That's terrible.
At 7:58 p.m. on Friday night, the police department arrives at 3636 Ogden Avenue and find 2 people deceased in the home, which is Cyle and the next door neighbor, Kevin Nelson, age 61. They find one roommate, age 20, in the backyard, critically injured with a shot to the neck. Backyard in the snow. Now, this roommate is not named for safety reasons because he fears for his life in retaliation. Now, if he fears for his life in retaliation, somebody fucking knows who did this.
Exactly. Of course.
Unfortunately, this victim, who did survive, I'm going to tell you that after this happened, they weren't sure he was going to make it. And a month later, in January of 2017, the report was, he's getting better. It's slow, but he's getting better. He spent, I don't know how much time in the hospital, but at least a month in the hospital recovering from being shot to the neck. He said he did not recognize the perpetrators or recognize their voices. Now, explaining why he wouldn't recognize them is because they were wearing paintball masks. Now, I didn't know what that meant because I've never played paintball. I looked them up, and they look like masks from World War II if you wanted to avoid being gassed.
Right, they look like SWAT team masks.
Yeah, they block out everything. Now, I'm going to tell you, and you have an opportunity. It's chilling, but you have an opportunity to see the perpetrators. A year ago, besides releasing the video of these perpetrators in the local news, the Weber County Sheriff's Department did a wonderful job of putting these videos on YouTube. So they're on YouTube. The longest one is about 3 minutes. There's a series of 3. I'm guessing they had to piece together the video from Kevin Nelson's home. And again, there's no audio because it's, like a video camera. It's not like a Ring video doorbell with a little bit more clear video. It's
surveillance cameras.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's no audio, and it's, quite frankly, it's chilling. It's more chilling because there is no audio. At one point, you see one of the perps raise his arm in a signal to a second perp, and that perp comes into frame. I'm going to tell you, looking on Google Earth, that Ogden Avenue looks like anywhere USA. A lovely tree-lined street with older houses, some 1-story, some 2-story. Not huge yards, but a little bit of space between the homes. Average to nice cars parked in the driveway. Nobody has, crap or junk around. Well-maintained yards. What I could see from Google Earth in these daylight shots is that behind the homes on the side of Ogden Avenue where Kevin Nelson and Cyle VanKomen and the other roommates lived, it appears to be a wooded area behind the houses. I'm wondering if these perpetrators didn't come from the woods. And then, the video is, it's overwhelming. I'll just tell you, it's overwhelming. You see 3 perpetrators casing the house for an hour. For an hour before.
Oh my! I mean, on the night of the murders, they spent an hour casing the house first?
Yes. In the snow. Now, the police release information I'm not sure I agree with, but I get they must have information that leads them in this direction. At first, they say they believe it's a botched home robbery, and then they say there's nothing random about this. This is people who knew the layout of the house, who knew who would be home, and there was one intended target. My only guess, and I could be off, but my only guess is the one intended target is Cyle VanKomen, because it's his home he shares with his roommates, and yet there's zero reason Cyle VanKomen would be a target. He doesn't have money shooting out of his butthole. He, lives and has a house where people can come and crash at any time. He didn't have money counting machines for his, Scarface Enterprises. He smoked pot and drank. A lot of 24-year-olds do, and they don't end up murdered. I don't. there's just more questions than I guess we're ever gonna have answers until this is solved. I was gonna say until and if this case is solved, but I'm going to say until it's solved, because God damn it, this case can be solved.
So nobody's come forward at all to suggest who they think these guys might be?
They have interviewed 70 people, and they started close with friends, you know.
Well, sure.
And the roommate, the surviving roommate, you know, says, I didn't recognize their faces, couldn't see their faces through their paintball masks, and didn't recognize their voices. And they believe the intended target was Cyle. Cyle, the man who was described by family as he would show up at family functions with a friend, and the friend was made to feel as welcome as if they were a member of the family, and sometimes the friend is wearing his clothing.
Yeah.
This is this kid who, I mean, you know I say this, and it's like, maybe not every victim of a homicide is, you know, bright and shiny and cheery, but you cannot look at a picture of Cyle VanKomen without being like, this kid, you want to pinch his cheeks and you want to hug the shit out of him, and you don't know him. This is a kid who his father described, he had tickets to a hockey game when Cyle was 4 or 5, and you got to meet the players. And so a lot of people brought their kids, and their kids are on the ice, and one of the the captain of the, I think it's the Grizzlies. I don't know the professional hockey team in Utah, but I think it's the Grizzlies. The captain of the then hockey team noticed Cyle kind of by himself, and came over and got him to join in, and got him skates, and he just never looked back. And he loved the ice and loved hockey. You know, besides the 3 videos of the perpetrators, there's a 23-minute video made by Kyle's father that is pictures and video clips of Kyle's entire life set to music. And I defy you to watch that video and your face not hurt from smiling. You know, he's a little kid and he's loving fishing, and, you know, he's fishing and then he throws his fish back in the creek after he catches it. Just the joy of catching the fish and then putting it back. He, you know, taught other little kids how to ice skate. To me, whoever put out the light that Cyle VanKomen had that lit up this world is a real monster, because he had the kind of light that the world needs. He's the kind of light we need to protect and honor, and he's the kind of light that somebody who knows what the fuck happened and who did this and why needs to come forward. So I can tell you, after watching the videos over and over again, a few things I've noticed. These perpetrators, I believe, are practiced and have done this before. The way they duck in between windows, they surround the house, and it is winter and dark and cold. They are like a ninja team, and I don't think this is their first time working together. When you see one of the perps, the camera is on him the longest. He is bent down in a squatting pose for a very long time and does not move. And having taught yoga and having practiced yoga, squatting is not an easy thing unless you have magical knees or are very young and athletic, which is what I believe.
Or are highly trained.
Well, You can see another quick part of one of the videos from a different angle. One of the perps jumps over a fence pretty handily and then runs back to the fence and is out of the camera shot. And the only thing he could probably do is have jumped back over the fence with ease.
It just makes me wonder, are these guys like professionally, like military trained?
That's a great question.
Or are they? I mean, it sounds like they're either trained by the military or by some sort of elite law enforcement training system. It sounds like they're professionals by any measure.
Well, I think they're professional robbers, or they had gotten together a plan for some reason to kill Cyle VanKomen. For what reason? I can't even wrap my head around.
Either. So the 20-year-old is just a collateral damage, apparently.
Yes.
And they were the only...
actually, the real collateral damage is Kevin Nelson.
Well, right.
The 61-year-old neighbor who owned an audio, a car audio business for many years. He was apparently, like such a sweet, amazing guy, not married, had nephews. His nephews are interviewed, a year after, and, his adult nephew can barely hold back his tears. He's like, we think about Uncle Kevin every day. He was such a big part of the family. And it says to me a lot about both victims. How many 24-year-olds do you know are friends with 61-year-olds?
Not a lot. No.
Right. Unless it's your dad or your grandpa, and here Cyle was good friends with Kevin Nelson. And Kevin stopped by the house after he got home from work to say hi to his neighbor. Who knows? Maybe they were sharing a beer. Maybe they were sharing a joint. I don't care.
Does the video show Kevin coming over?
Nope. Well, let me put it this way. If they have that hasn't been released.
They're keeping that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They must show, because if they were casing the joint for an hour, that had to include him coming over.
Well, it was almost 8:00. So he may have gotten there and been in the home before. I mean, it was cold. They weren't going to be standing outside smoking.
Out,
yeah, right. He may have been hanging out. They were very good friends. They knew each other. They'd lived there next to each other for a while. I can tell you from the Google Earth images, the daylight images, there is a chain link fence on one side of the home. And it looks like the fences are not... It may sound weird, but they're not in the front of the homes. Like, they don't surround. Maybe there's something in the CCNRs where you don't have a fence around your whole house, but you have a fence that maybe starts in the back of the house and encloses your backyard. So yeah, there's a chain link fence, which to me, how do you a chain link fence is going to be tougher to jump over back and forth than a wooden fence or a concrete wall. A chain link fence, you can, catch something. I mean, the one perpetrator who jumps over the fence does so with ease. I will also tell you that the creepiest part, I mean, it's all creepy. It's all the silence, because the video has no audio, the silence is deafening. You're watching in silence these perpetrators, walking around the house, hiding between windows, pressed up against the house. Another weird part that law enforcement releases is that they apparently have aimed, they were aiming through a window at Cyle VanKomen while Brock was still there. And they believe they wait. Maybe they feel there's too many of them because there's 3 perpetrators and there would have been 5 people in the home. So maybe they wait until Brock and another roommate leave to go get Hot Pockets before they go in 3 against 3. But they wait an hour in the cold outside, casing this house in the strangest kind of way you've ever seen. The weirdest movements. You see them duck down and go underneath, window casing, squat, by trees for long periods of time. I mean, it's creepy and odd, and what it looks like is someone's bad horror film that they're shooting. It's just...
Yeah, the fact that they hung out so long.
Yeah.
And and there's no clear motive. That's what's really...
There you go.
I mean, he obviously didn't have any money,
right,
to speak of, and
right.
So nobody in there, no police investigation, or the police investigation has not turned up any evidence of anybody that would have a reason to kill him.
Right. So
did they get the wrong house?
No, they don't believe. Okay, the South Ogden Police Department, the Sergeant DeHart, says, we believe it was the result of a home invasion robbery. We believe there was one intended target. Now, they don't come out and say, we believe Cyle VanKomen was the intended target, but it would be hard to picture 61-year-old Kevin Nelson, independent business owner who's friends with the young kids next door who have an open door policy, being the person who's an intended target. I can tell you there's more evidence than the video, which is pretty incredible. I will also tell you one person in the video is extraordinarily tall and thin, which makes it makes me even more angry that someone, Cyle was really well known. There were a lot of roommates. People were in and out. It was a fun place to hang. We know more than one person knows who did this and why. But one of those perps is so fucking tall that between the windows on the first floor, his head almost comes to the eaves that hang out over the house.
Okay, well that is very angering, because that tells you that somebody has to know who this is.
Well, and here's the other pieces of information that are puzzling, at the very least, and terrifying at the most, because of what they can show and yet what hasn't been proven. So other things that were collected at the home were casings from 9mm handguns. There were slugs that were actually left in the house. Cigarette butts, beer bottles, the grocery bag with the Hot Pockets, small bottles of alcohol, footprint impressions, and a pocket knife that were left outside. Now this bothers me, and I don't understand the wording. Police took photographs of a fingerprint impression and what appeared to be blood on the front door and cut out that part of the door to process it for evidence.
But we don't know what the results are.
Mm-hmm. Police have said suspects were familiar with the home and the occupants, and one individual was the intended target. South Ogden Police Chief Darren Park says, I've seen nothing to indicate that this was random. The footage shows that the suspects were casing the house and that handguns are visible in the footage. It's not a gang house. Police had received reports of loud parties. They were also aware that marijuana and alcohol use happened at the home, but they really still want witnesses to come forward. Prosecutors are not worried about those who may have been smoking or drinking underage at the house.
Well, at this point, what year was this?
2016.
Okay. Well, I doubt if anybody with any brains that does know something can't be worried about the cops coming after them for smoking dope or whatever. If there are people who know what's going on, it's what you said, that they're afraid to come forward for some reason.
Well, if you have fingerprints, shell casings, a fingerprint in blood, even though these men appear to be wearing gloves, although the one who raises his hand it looks like a hand. But again, this footage is not the best. This couldn't have been their first rodeo. I mean, I don't... Maybe it is. Maybe they watched way too many Quentin Tarantino films.
Maybe, but if they're that athletic and clearly that well-trained, it just sounds like they're well-trained.
Well, I can tell you, I don't know what happened. I'm telling you, there's the information that Stacy sent me, you know, such great information from the Salt Lake City Tribune. An journalist named Jessica Miller did a wonderful job. A journalist from the Stanford Examiner staff, Loretta Park, another journalist named Mitch Shaw at the beginning of the case, I think did a wonderful job from the Standard. So in the Salt Lake City Tribune with Jessica Miller, it's like the 20-year-old surviving victim said 3 masked intruders broke into the home. They held those inside at gunpoint, demanding money, and then ultimately killed Kevin Nelson and Cyle VanKomen, and the third victim was found out in the backyard in the snow, shot in the neck.
Okay. Why was the third victim out in the back?
Well, that's a great question, and I'm going to tell you, I wish I had a better answer. At one point, I don't know if he walked out in the backyard to smoke. I don't know.
Oh, I see.
I don't know.
He may have been out there when they broke in.
He may have.
Or
he
could have been the intended target, and after they got rid of the first 2, they took him out back either to get information or just to execute him back there.
Well, he was a 20-year-old kid. He wasn't even, a legal adult. He was a 20-year-old kid. Maybe this young man had a lot of money or was rumored to have a lot of money. But here's the other thing that bothers me, because I can't explain, but they have ruled him out as being involved.
As being involved?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, okay. All right.
So I can tell you that J.J. Komen, Cyle Komen's father, has watched the videos thousands of times. And he sees these 3 masked suspects crouching outside his son's home, peeking in the windows, drawing their guns. And even J.J. Komen is like, I'm trying to figure out who this is. You just feel so helpless. It's just guys standing right there, and you know it's them, and you can't do anything about it. You just keep hoping that somebody comes forward. These were 3 individuals, and maybe one of them has a conscience or something. I don't know that these individuals have a conscience, but I can guarantee, Mr. Komen, that somebody knows one or all of these fuck faces. And if they have a conscience, I hope they'll come forward. The video surveillance shows that the killers had watched the home for more than an hour. They trained their guns on Cyle VanKomen's windows, when Brock was there, but they waited until Brock and his stepbrother had left, and they were gone for 10 minutes. And by the time they get back, all hell had broken loose, and Kevin Nelson and Cyle VanKomen were deceased, and the other roommate is critically injured in the backyard, bleeding from a bullet wound in his neck. So here is something that bothers me. The South Ogden Police Department said this is still our number 1 priority. We will continue to work this relentlessly. Okay, well, you could have talked to me and probably other people too, but okay.
We're here to help.
Uh-huh. Chief Darren Park urged anyone with information about the killings to come forward. South Ogden is known as a quiet place, and even though this house was known where underage people could go drink beer, we don't care about that. I'm investigating 2 homicides. And here's the words of broken-hearted parents. Renee Finch, Kyle's mother, She said, I miss his smile, his laugh, his hugs. He gave the world's best hugs. He had the biggest heart. He was very real. He liked to have real conversations with people. He didn't do phony. That's probably what I miss the most. He was always so open with me and with everyone. He valued relationships that he made. He loved hockey and fishing and his family. He was known as this loyal protector of his family. J.J. Komen, his father, says he was just very giving. That was just him. He was always accepting of everybody, no matter what kind of background they had or who they were or what they'd done. And yet this is the man who ends up murdered in his home on a Friday night while waiting for his brother to come home with Hot Pockets so they could go bowling. If you want to talk senseless, I can't think of a more senseless crime than this. And if you are like Tipster Stacy and you want to do something to help, you can call anonymously the South Ogden Police Department at 801-629-8221. And more cowbell.
If you'd like to support this podcast, go to patreon.com/justthetipsters.